ask you a question, and that is, what is in your life's blueprint?
This is Jeremy Till, the host of the Operator Podcast. We'll be taking you on a journey with us, interviewing some of the top performers in their field on how they operate and get the job done. At the end of the day, we want to be our best. We're going to help provide the information, the data, and the science of how to achieve that, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Let's go! Let's go! Our next guest is Adee Cazayoux. She is the founder of WAG, Working Against Gravity, one of the fastest growing nutritional online programs in the world of CrossFit, functional training. She works with some of the top athletes across the sport of CrossFit through her sheer professionalism, service, connecting with athletes, building their programs, but not limited to athletes in the world of CrossFit. She has general pop people all across the world, coaches all across the world that are providing nutritional plans that are flexible for people to get the success that they're looking for in their overall health and wellness. It was awesome to hear her working at 21st Century that's on an online platform and making it successful, connecting with people on the physical realm as well. I was inspired by the interview and really created a connection with what she's doing and how we can make the Operator a business into itself. So it's awesome to have her as a guest, and we're looking forward to this podcast. I think about you, and it's like you seem that everything just happened so quickly.
Yeah, it did.
And so I'm curious to the build up, because we think about your business and where you are today in this space, a major influencer, and you're young. Mm-hmm. And so just kind of walk us back into a storyline of kind of where you entered into the space of fitness and nutrition and how you kind of got started.
Yeah, so like the business part happened really quickly. The whole like coming into fitness and nutrition was a long time ago. So if I start like back all the way then, I was 16 years old and I was almost 200 pounds and just in I had done every sport as a kid, and I got to the point where I was like too heavy to participate in my sports. Like figure skating, if you're heavier, you can't jump as high. Like your strength to power ratio is just off. I was a slalom skier and I literally couldn't hold on to the rope to get me out of the water. It wasn't like a skill thing. It was like the rope would just come out of my hands. I didn't have the strength to pull my body out anymore. And I kind of like gave up on myself, and my mom took me to a nutritionist, and that nutritionist did something similar to what I do now. She tracked like carbs, fats, protein, and fruit. And it was more like a point system, kind of like Weight Watchers. And it like literally completely transformed my relationship with food altogether. Like she didn't villainize anything. It was all about what you should include, not what you should exclude from your diet. And I just changed everything for me. And then from there I lost 50 pounds and I've kept it off ever since. And it gave me like the confidence to be able to do sports again. Like I could go to the gym again. I was confident in my body. I mean, 16 years old means like the first 2 years of high school I was overweight, and the second 2 years of high school I wasn't. This is like a really weird like dynamic of like coming into yourself, also being like physically a completely different human. And then I got back into sports, and my sport happened to be CrossFit. And I was following my boyfriend around the university gym when I was in university, and just like he was doing bodybuilding, like back, bi, chest, tri, shoulders, legs, and I would just copy him. And he got frustrated and he was like, you know, just go to CrossFit.com. They have a workout every single day. Just do whatever they post. So I was like, okay. So I remember like watching the videos, like the archive videos of what the exercises were.
And what year to reference?
This was 2010. 2009 or 2010. And I watched the entire 2009 games on the, like, you could watch it on like the Journal, I think. Mm-hmm. And when Miko Salo won. Mm-hmm. And I just became obsessed. And I remember doing like thrusters in the downstairs of the gym and like running upstairs to go on the treadmill to do like 400-meter runs and like making sure my squat rack stayed. And I was just a little bit crazy. Like the only person. Everyone thought I was nuts. And that's how I found CrossFit. And I hurt my back a couple years later, and I decided I was just going to start from the basics and get good at weightlifting. and just like work on technique. And I was back in Toronto at the University of Toronto doing my master's degree, or starting my master's degree. And there was a coach there, and he was the Hungarian weightlifting coach. And the environment just like completely overtook me. I loved it. It was in a little dungeon in the basement. I was the only girl. We weren't allowed to talk. He would hit you with a bamboo stick. It was like, I literally just loved it. I felt like an athlete for like the first time. And I did weightlifting for 4 years. And I won a medal at nationals last year. And then that's my fitness story.
Yeah, that's awesome. So just to point out, you're from Canada.
Yes.
And so that's cool. The university. Yeah, right. Yeah, throw A in there. And so, I mean, I guess thinking about, what were you studying in your undergrad?
I did a bachelor's honors in psychology, and then I did my master's in teaching, and I intended on being a kindergarten teacher. That's what that was. I mean, I still might be a kindergarten teacher one day. Who knows?
Yeah, right. It's so kind of where that brings you to your weightlifting career. Now, with your current operation, what was the segue into getting online and building? Because you're hyper connected to so many individuals within the space that are, influencers, impactors.
I think it started, I had graduated from my master's degree, and my final project for my master's degree was to create an e-portfolio for applying for teaching jobs. But this was in the summer of 2014, and the next year was the Pan American Games in Toronto. And when you're the host country of an event like that, you get to send a full team of athletes. So that means like there's more opportunities for you to compete. So like this year, World Championships is in Anaheim, California. So America will send a full team of girls, which is 8 girls. Usually you only send 2 or 3. So I wanted to compete at the Pan American Games. So I decided to take a year off after my master's degree, and I wasn't going to apply for a teaching job. So I asked my professor if I could change the final project a bit. And instead of making a website for a resume, could I just like actually make a website for what I was going to do, which was just train. And this was at the time when like Muscle Driver was popular, and they're not around anymore. And Travis Mash and Mash Elite Performance and John North and like that whole weightlifting, that was like who everybody watched on YouTube, and it was just super popular. So I decided I was going to drive. I had met Travis Mash briefly we went on like a traincation in the winter break, and Travis was like, you can come to my gym anytime you want to train, just like come. And I was like, he's like, I'll give you a place to stay, I'll give you a job, like whatever. I emailed him like probably close to like 10 to 20 times, and he only answered like every other one or every 4th or 5th email, never confirming anything. But I was like, I'm just gonna go, like what's the worst case scenario? So I drove to North Carolina and trained with Muscle Driver and Travis. I showed up at his gym, and he was like, well, you're here. So I stayed in a double wide trailer on a 7-acre farm. I peeled shrimp for cash and trained for a long time. And while I was there, I was cutting from the 69 kilo weight class to the 63 kilo weight class. And I was documenting this all on that website for my school project. And that was workingagainstgravity.com. Like in retrospect, I might have chosen a different name if I knew this was going to become what it was. It's kind of a mouthful. But I was just talking about it. I didn't think anybody was reading it. I was just talking about it, what I was eating. I was like losing weight, but getting stronger at the same time. I think like my back squat went from 270 to 315 in the span of 4 months. And Travis Mash is like the squat king. So it was like, I was squatting a lot. Mm-hmm. And everyone at the time in 2014 was like, you don't get lighter and stronger at the same time. Like that doesn't happen. Like you have to get bigger to get stronger. But I was an example of that not being true. And people started emailing me and asking me to help them. And yeah, once it got to enough people, I was like, I should probably charge people for this. And then
this is 2015, 16?
That was the summer of 2014.
14.
And then Travis Mash saw that I was doing that. And he said, hey, can I offer your program to my whole online team? He was like one of the first to have like online remote coaching. And I was like, sure. I didn't know what that meant really. And I think overnight we got 80 people. signed up, and I found a way to service those 80 people. Probably did a really shitty job. So if you guys are listening, like, I'm sorry. We're definitely better now than we were then. But we found a way. Like, I just got some people to help, and we found a way to provide a service to those people. And I think it just like kind of expanded from there.
Mm-hmm. So I want to go back into your earlier story of your nutrition. You said, your 3 basic macronutrients in fruit.
Yeah, I know.
And so fruit isn't necessarily a macronutrient,
Right.
independent of carbohydrates. So what was the whole focus on fruit as independent of the 3?
I mean, I guess she didn't want all of your carbohydrates coming from fruit. Wanted you to be getting carbohydrates from vegetables and from, whole grains and things like that. So you'd have to ask her though.
Yeah.
But that's my guess.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And did that help you out?
The way she did that?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Totally changed everything for me. Yeah. That was like the catalyst for falling in love with nutrition.
Yeah. And so you seem like a super relationship driven person.
Yeah. What makes you say that?
Well, I mean, I just get I step back and analyze you and your business and what you've done and your story. And the only way you could be where you are today is through relationships. And it's very clear to me that that's the case. And so I just wanted to drive into that and ask if that's a natural ability. I already know that it is. Is it? Would you confirm that?
I think it's funny that you say that, because I think one of the things I say is I have a really hard time making friends. Like, I have a really hard time. I think the whole like connecting thing was, I married Michael Cazayoux, my husband. And when I met him, that completely connected me to like a whole other group of people. And I saw the way he connects with people. And I was like, I want to be like that. And it was more like, how can I be like him? And that has like expanded my ability to deepen relationships, but I don't think that's a natural thing. I think I work really, really, really hard at it for sure.
Great. And that's good information to share. I'm in the process of listening to Grit, and have you read or listened to Grit?
Actually, I
the
saw
book?
her speak at a conference last year. She's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal, content. And that's kind of the whole concept of the ability to be able to do something, is that you work and practice at it. And so to be relational, you have to want to be, versus it's a natural thing. And but if you look at someone like Bill Clinton, who was notorious for being a relatable person, connecting, but he kept note cards of people's names, and he would tuck it away, and he would kind of order them and put them into his Rolodex and all that stuff. So, I mean, you intentionally are relational, and you're modeling Michael in the way that he connects with people.
I think I'm probably more organized than he is too.
Yeah.
So like, in terms of like the note cards and stuff, if you saw my Google Calendar, like I have everyone's birthdays, their events that are coming up. So like, I know to like remember to text message them or call them or that kind of stuff. It's a lot of people to keep track of.
Absolutely. So from 2014 summer, Travis's program, 80 people. From 2014 to 2017, you've amassed a team, you've coordinated business, you're communicating nationally, more internationally. So what was the skill sets that you had to adopt to scale the business in a way that it didn't all fall apart? Because there's a lot of people doing what you're doing right now. And I think this is a distinguished mark in the marketplace. Is there's a lot of people that have CrossFit gyms, but some have 70 people, some have 300 people, and that's, triple the size. So in your business, there's a lot of people doing online nutrition programs. And so amassing a team, constructing that, what skill sets did you feel like you had to adopt to get you from there to where you are today?
Yeah. I'll see if I can, tell me if I don't answer this properly. Skill set. I am a firm believer that I know nothing. So I go into an experience like waiting for it to break. So I make a decision with the most information that I have available to me. And I'll be like, this is the best decision I could possibly think of with the information I have. But I'm waiting for like a new piece of information to come that's going to like break down the way I'm thinking about it, so that I have to fix it or change it. I ask for a ton of help. Like, I never think that I know what I'm doing. I actually still think I have no idea what I'm doing most days. But you hit a problem, try and fix that problem, assume that you're going to hit another problem, and keep going and going and going. I mean, being in business for, I think I've learned now, it's been almost 3 years. And now I've realized being in business for 1 year is not a guarantee that you're going to be in business for 5 years. And like the expectations just get higher and higher and higher. And now you have to offer a different service. Like, you can't continue to be successful offering the same thing. Like, you have to change. We listen to our members a lot. Like, I really appreciate their feedback, and I'd rather hear it, even if it's like painful or it stings or it's like, damn, I'm so upset I did that. Like, the people we were working with in 2014, like, I actually feel bad. Like, we probably didn't offer an awesome service back then, but we were just figuring it out. Like, we were just doing it. I think that we really want them to participate in our growth. So I'd rather hear it to my face instead of them being on Reddit, like, talking about how garbage we are. So I really like hearing like the things we're doing wrong. I know we're trying our best. Like, I know we're doing the best we can. We're making the best decisions with that information. And if we're making a bad decision, it's because we're missing a piece of information. So I'd rather get that from them. And then,
well, how do you solicit their feedback?
I'll call them on the phone, or I'll send them emails specifically. I have moderators that are in our Facebook group that are specifically looking for that kind of thing. They'll notice when that kind of stuff happens. Our coaches are looking for that kind of thing so that they can bring it up. I'm actively in there. We've had like a couple moments where like something's gone like awfully wrong. Like, one time a coach spelt the member's name wrong in a response, and it also wasn't a great response. So like, it just kind of compounded to be an awful experience for that person, and they didn't feel like they were heard or that they were getting a personalized service. So like, I specifically addressed it, took accountability for it, and is like, we screwed up. Like, this is not acceptable. We're going to take this feedback and we're going to be better. I'm not like afraid to say that we make mistakes. I think it's like actually really fun. I know we're good people, so I'm not like afraid to admit that we make mistakes. Like, we're human. I think that's really helped us in the long run to just keep changing, and we're creating a service for the people, not for me. Like, it's not for me to do. I don't use it the way that they do. So I think that has been really, really helpful for me, and asking for help. Like, anytime we do something new, I run it by like at least 8 to 10 different people constantly.
That's awesome. So I know when you had your conference here in Austin last month or so, one of your coaches dropped in here from, I think she was from Australia, and she was living in another country. And
Melanie, yeah.
Yeah, and so I know you have, individuals across the globe working, with athletes or members, what you call them. So tell us, I want to get a snapshot of your business today and your team members, and then we'll go back and how you built to where you are today.
Yeah. So when we started, it was me and 2 other guys. It was my boyfriend at the time and our friend, and the friend's still with us. My boyfriend's not. I have a husband now who's not that guy. So it was just the 3 of us at the beginning, and it got to a point where like we realized we couldn't grow anymore. So you need to bring someone onto the team. It was almost like desperation. So every single hire in the company has come internally. So they've either been a member on the program, or they're like family of somebody on the program, a wife or a husband of somebody on the program. That's how all of our staff have come to be. And now we're a team of 36, and we have people all over the world, which maybe wasn't the best decision. So like, if anybody is listening and like you have an online business and you like are eventually going to turn these people into employees, it's like not the easiest thing in the world to be an American company that employs people in Germany. So I would maybe suggest not doing that, but I don't regret it. It's just like all growing pains, but
and what are the pain points of doing that for you?
Like just honestly, that kind of stuff is just, I'm not a lawyer or an accountant. I coach people on behavior change and nutrition really, really well. So when you run a business, like that stuff comes with your business. So I don't make decisions based on like what employment law is. Like, I don't know what employment law is. So then all of a sudden you're like, it's not where your business is, it's where your employee is. And I didn't know that at the time. So we're just like figuring it out as we go. It's honestly really fun.
I believe you. And so you have developed this team that are remote. What is the communication tools that y'all use to, support everyone and keep everyone feeling like they're part of a team?
Yeah, so we are very active in our staff Facebook group. They've created like relationships within themselves. So a lot of them like hang out with each other. Some of them live in like really awesome places. Like one lives in Joshua Tree, like near Joshua Tree. So people go to her house like all the time and just backpack with her. One of our coaches, Kelsey, she like is climbing a different mountain every day. So people go to climb mountains with her. We have a bi-weekly coaches call that's all on video. And at this point, it's a lot of faces on that call. So who knows what like the next level is going to be, if we have to divide people up, if we have to do more than one call. But right now it's just a bi-weekly video call. And we have a coach that's designated to like support that team. So they are in constant contact with them, video calls with them every other month, one-on-one, and just making sure that they're like happy. We also use Slack. If anyone uses Slack, that's kind of just like to banter and like have fun with each other.
So with the way that I guess we haven't just defined what you do from a professional standpoint. And so it'd be good to give the audience, what is it that Working Against Gravity actually does?
So Working Against Gravity is an online nutrition coaching company that helps people achieve some level of transformation. It doesn't necessarily have to be physical, or it could be emotional, it could be mental, intellectual. It doesn't necessarily matter, but we help people figure out how to eat food properly. They can improve their performance, lose weight, gain weight, have a more positive relationship with food, reduce anxiety and guilt surrounding food, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's really our focus, or what I believe that we're like experts on, is behavior change. Like, what are your habits and behaviors around food, and how do you become aware of them? Like, most people that are joining our program are looking for some type of change. They're like not happy with where they're at. They want to achieve something different, but they don't see, you're not aware of what's stopping you from getting there. So our coaches are just like a mirror for you, almost like a therapist. Like, we're mirroring back to you what you're doing to make you aware of what's actually going on, so that you can take control of it and change it.
So your coaches, what is kind of like the credentials that they have to do their jobs, or what are you looking for in coaches that want to? Yeah,
so at this point it's different than it was. So it used to be just like the best personality, somebody who's been through the program, that's really passionate about what we do, has seen success in the program, and is really ready to learn, which that's still very important. Now we have more registered dietitians on the team, people who have been through some formal nutrition education, which is like definitely something that we put as being more important. But it's really just someone who's been through the program, loves our culture. I'm more concerned with someone being a culture fit than the education piece. If you're not a culture fit, it would just be like cancerous to the community. So we're like such a very specific kind of culture. So I look for just somebody who fits that and loves it and wants to be a part of what we're doing.
So how would you describe your culture?
Extremely positive, very accepting and judgment-free, and a group of people that are looking for, not afraid to take the hard way instead of taking the easy way, like looking for the uncomfortable parts of life to better themselves. I hope.
Absolutely. So I know that you work with some top tier games athletes. How did you go about getting those individuals to work with you on your program? And were you marketing towards sport performance or competitive performance? How did that all shake out for you?
Yeah, I think the we didn't do any marketing until this year, which was more just a function of we had too much demand. So we didn't want more people to start coming. We had a waiting list for a really long time. The whole working with CrossFit Games athletes was because of my husband. So my husband won the CrossFit Games twice on a team, and he had a friend, Molly Volmer, who was on Team NorCal, and she just wanted help with her nutrition. And I started working with her. She saw an incredible amount of success in a very short time. And then Molly led to Lauren Fisher, led to Maddie Myers, led to, I ended up talking to Ben Bergeron was like, hey, do you mind just like working with one of my athletes? And that athlete happened to be Katrin David's daughter. And then that was Cole Sager and Brooke Wells. And it just kind of like escalated from one person to another.
Right. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at. Like there's this factor that's playing into this, and I kind of like getting into that factor, and kind of where I was asking the relational aspect. It seems that your service is world class.
Maybe, yeah. I hope so.
If you're getting a referral because you're getting results, would you say that, again, there's so many people pitching nutrition plans online? What would you working with these athletes and getting them results? What would you say I'm doing different than these people? Would you say, or like, I mean, you might not want to say what your special sauce is. I don't know.
I'm an open book. You still have to do the work. I'll tell you everything that I do. If I had to say what we do different, I think what I'm realizing more and more is that it's less about the actual nutrition, which everyone knows how to eat. Like you all know. Eat vegetables, eat meat, eat nuts and seeds, and don't eat too much junk. You know, like if you're going to have junk food, like eat it in moderation. It shouldn't be a majority thing in your diet, and you should make some rules and boundaries around that, but more so include good food. We all know that. The hard part is the hang-ups people have around food, the hang-ups they have around their body, the lifestyle choices that they make. It's like difficult if you're Katrin David's daughter or Brooke Entz and you are a movie star and you're on set all day and you don't have access to food. What are the tools and habits and behaviors to make you successful, but also make it so that you're not super hard on yourself? Like you can also be compassionate and just build little steps at a time. I think that part is what we do probably better than anybody else. Like help people just be compassionate with themselves. Like don't be so hard on yourself. Don't try to be so perfect all the time, and create little habits that will accumulate to big change. And it's the exact same for games athletes and for Olympians and world team members. It's just, you know, they have the same problems. They have problems with their body image. Brooke Wells is 22 years old and she wants to party on the weekends in university. Like, how does she manage that while not affecting her training or not, turning it into a week-long thing instead of just like containing it into one event? I think it's more like a lifestyle thing, and we really focus on that part, like the mental part, the behaviors, the habits. The nutrition part is easy, I think.
Right. And I love that in the sense of the lifestyle. And you kind of touched on that a little bit. How would you describe lifestyle, and what are some key elements of lifestyle?
Lifestyle is, what does your daily day-to-day look like? And it's probably going to be different for most people on the weekdays versus the weekends. Most people on the weekdays have more of a routine, more of a schedule. And it's also just how you, like, what time do you wake up in the morning? Is it the same time every day? Are you sitting most of the day? Are you, are you out of the house? Are you in the house? Are you grocery shopping? Are you traveling all the time? Are you a flight attendant that spends so much time on a plane? Are you a nurse that does 24-hour shifts? Like, what does your life look like in terms of things you do, your time management, and how, for us, it's just your accessibility to food. But I mean, that's just like our mechanism for facilitating change, but it's so much more than just food. It's sometimes we're talking about meditation. Sometimes we're talking about stress and anxiety management. We're talking about so many different things. It's just food happens to be something you have to do every single day, multiple times a day. Mm-hmm. So lifestyle is like Yeah, I don't know if that's a good description of lifestyle.
I mean, I think it's a very simple description, because I like that you describe what do you do in the day, and that's your life and the style
What's
of
important to you. Yeah.
I got that. So I know you had mentioned Brooke, and it seems that y'all are pretty close friends, and also
Which one? Wells or Ents?
Ents.
Ents. Brooke Ents.
And her career has exploded in multiple directions. And is that how do you do her program for her food? And then how is that from a dynamic of a relationship? Because again, it seems that y'all are pretty close.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, I didn't do her food for a while we were friends, and Michael was her coach. So it was, we were just good friends for a long time, but I think it works really well. I mean, she trusts me. She knows that I have her best interest. She knows that anything she tells me is 100% sacred, and I would never break that trust. And that girl is like the most insane body in the world. It's like crazy to see, to watch her body change. And the dynamic of working with her, she's just traveling literally all the time. So in terms of our friendship, I think it's made our friendship deeper. If I had to say, it gives me like an excuse to connect with people every single week. Like, all these people don't live near me, so I don't get to see them at the gym every day, or I don't have an excuse to talk to them, and this gives me an excuse to talk to them. Like, they have to check in with me once a week, so it gives me an excuse to connect.
That's awesome. So how many athletes or people do you individually work with?
Me, I currently have 26.
Is there a cap? And like, I was thinking about, like, does each coach have a cap of athletes that they work with, and do they have protocols that they follow? Because you're talking about emotional and stress. Like, do they go, well, this isn't working? Do they check off this box? How does that work?
In terms of a cap, it's totally up to them. So they set their own. We know roughly the range where like quality is going to start deteriorating. And that changes for every single coach depending on their lifestyle and if they do anything else other than just coach. And also just coaching sometimes can lead to like burnout, and it's just a lot of the same. So that's just self-set, and we monitor, like, we call them, I guess most business owners will call them key performance indicators of, are your people actually checking in? Are they seeing success? What's the feedback that we're getting on the surveys? Like that kind of stuff, to make sure that things are going well, and if we have to adjust things. In terms of like a structure, there is a structure, but they have freedom to do whatever they want. So if they want their athlete to not track macros at all, that's totally okay. Like, I have someone I work with that's hasn't tracked a single macro in 6 months, and she still checks in with me every single week. And we just talk about, like, what were you thinking about when you were making your food decisions this week? What types of things were you eating? I mean, it's really free. It's like a free for all, but they have someone they can talk to work through those kinds of decisions if they're not sure. But it totally depends on the person. Like, everybody's so different, and everybody has such different relationships with food and how they look at it and how they feel about it. Some people have no problems with food, or someone like me, if I'm sitting in a restaurant, I like immediately, if it's a big menu, get like anxiety about, am I making the right choice? Like, what's going to be in it? How is this going to affect my choices later? And like, that's something I have to manage. But they have pretty much, it's kind of a structure, but they can totally throw it all out the window if they really wanted to. And I think it will go more and more as we progress and grow to changing that. Like, you can track your macros, not track your macros, weigh and measure your food, don't weigh and measure your food. Like, we'll be able to turn things on and off. We try to avoid people having to be like perfect. Mm-hmm.
So I kind of look at the success you've had in your business. You have a track record. You have your undergrad. Did you finish your master's? Mm-hmm. And you have your master's. So like, going back to your mom, and whenever you were younger, growing up in Canada, what was your early life like? Was it very foundational, like in the sense of traditional Canadian life that you were brought up in? How would you describe that?
My parents are from Israel, so I would say like my household was Israeli, but I lived in Canada.
Okay.
So my parents only speak Hebrew to each other pretty much. still that way. If anyone knows any Israeli people, like our normal level of volume is like domestic violence in other people's houses. So like when we love each other, we're really loud. When we're mad at each other, we're really loud. It's just like loud all the time. And I didn't even realize that until I started dating other people. And I was like, wow, your family's really quiet. Or they would come to my house and be like, silent because they were afraid to speak and be yelled at. Mm-hmm. In terms of, my family's awesome. My parents are madly crazy in love with each other, which is a really great example to have. And we were just us. So my dad has a sister in Canada, but we didn't have any other family. So it was pretty much just us all the time. And their friends were also from Israel. So it's kind of like my family friends were my cousins. And when it came to food, I think the reason I got like hung up on food as a kid was I had a hard time making friends. Like the whole relationship thing is not an easy thing for me. I feel awkward inside, but other people are like, there's no way you're awkward. I'm like, but I am. I swear on the inside, I'm super awkward. So I would just avoid social situations. So I would just stay home and eat because that made me feel comfortable. And in my house, it was like only healthy food. Like there was no junk food at all. So that whole like restricting it made me want it more, me particularly. So I would find ways to get it. I would like get money and go to the convenience store, or I would eat it at friends' houses, or do that kind of stuff. But my household was crazy, loud, all over the place.
That's awesome. So did you grow up in a traditional Jewish family and the practice of the faith and all that?
Yeah. So we're Jewish in identity. We do like the dinners at the holidays. I haven't been to synagogue in a very, very, very long time. I had a bat mitzvah, but I only did the party and I didn't read from the Torah. So we do like the traditional aspects, like celebrate the holidays, kind of like we'd have Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner. So like we have Hanukkah dinner or Rosh Hashanah dinner, and we have Passover dinner, but I don't practice in terms of the religious parts of it.
Gotcha. So that kind of is a good, I wanted to bring the whole story full circle because it kind of gives identity to your success. Because I think that in my observation of successful people, stability and, foundational internal stability is important to grow at the rate that you did and to develop the team that you did and to have the relationships that you formed. If you don't have foundation, it's very hard to keep people intact. Mm-hmm. So I would just, in my own, I just wanted to, kind of look into that and see. And I think that kind of proves it with your family and kind of that lineage. And with the Jewish tradition, the family is just, you see that with Jewish people, there's very intact.
Very.
And I think it's very healthy and powerful for folks. So I wanted to ask you about the vision of where are y'all going from a company standpoint, and kind of what do you see the next year being for y'all?
Oh, gosh.
And I know y'all just had y'all summit here in Austin. So like, what was the outcome of that? And
so in 3 years, it's a 3 year, we call it a moonshot. We're heading to the moon as a team. I definitely want our team to grow and to make as big of an impact as possible. And I definitely want to move in the direction of giving, like really getting even better at meeting people where they're at. So if weighing and measuring your food isn't necessarily for you, then like we can start somewhere. Like it's incredibly effective. Weighing and measuring your food is very effective, but it's not necessarily for everybody. Like you'll get really great progress that way, and you'll learn a lot about your food and you'll see portion sizes and that kind of stuff. But I would love to be able to assess people in a remote fashion in a better and more specific way, so we can start with maybe something a little bit different. Like maybe we start with just focusing on what's on your plate, or maybe we can use food logs, or maybe we can do different kinds of things. Right now, what we do works. So we like are where we're at and trying to like brainstorm. Maybe we'll like beta test some small groups of people and do different things. But really in 3 years, I imagine that we've created enough of an impact that people can become more self-sustaining in terms of nutrition. Like I don't have to be a part of a specific diet or program. Like obviously I want people to be connected to being on Working Against Gravity and Team WAG and like be part of a group of people. But in terms of like who guides your nutrition, I want you to be the guide for your own nutrition. I want you to be empowered with the knowledge and the confidence of knowing what works for you and knowing how to tinker with your own nutrition to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. So to empower people with that ability instead of saying, life, like the best program is the program that you can follow, but it's also the program that you can follow in the most difficult scenarios. So I want people, no matter what circumstances that they're encountering in their life, to be able to know how to adjust their nutrition so that they don't have that anxiety and guilt around food. They don't gain 10 pounds on vacation. They don't see their performance in the gym plummet when work gets really stressful, that kind of stuff. And them to be empowered with that instead of having to be, assigning themselves into a particular group or diet. Like that's, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You want to empower people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My question to you is, if someone's wanting to start an online nutrition program today as a business, what would be your recommendations or advice?
I've actually had people reach out to like talk to me about this. My first advice would be to do like things that are not scalable first. So people always think about like, oh, well, how am I going to do this when I have 200 members? It's like, do you have 200 members? Like you're not there yet. So you can't even anticipate what the problems are going to be. So like not try to think too far ahead, especially when you're first starting. Like do things that aren't scalable. Like do the stuff that you're not going to be able to do with 200 members to get to know the people that you're working with and give the highest value service that you possibly can, whatever that means for you. Like we might not be the high value service for everybody, but it is for me and like for our people. I would focus on giving a valuable product instead of bringing more people. Like if you bring more and more people to something that's not good, then it's not going to be helpful to you. You won't grow. So instead of focusing on, I need more members, I need more people to sign up, focus on just giving the best results that you possibly can to your people and do things like, when we first started, we literally went from one email inbox, and as people would come in and check in, it was like whatever coach was available would answer that person. Like the person didn't even get assigned to a specific coach. Then we moved to like different folders, and it would filter their clients into the different coaches folders, but it was all the same email. Then people got their own emails, like we didn't care about things being perfect. And that would be my next thing is like, don't wait to launch something when it's perfect. I listened to a podcast with Mark Zuckerberg, and the Facebook motto used to be, I think they've added to it now, but it's move fast and break things. And that just means like if you're not embarrassed by the thing that you put out there the first time, then you waited too long to put it out there. Like just do it. Like just put it out there. It's never going to be perfect, and it's also not for you. So if you're putting something out there and it's not perfect, that's okay. You're going to get feedback on it, and understand that at the beginning of something, you have a lot of flexibility to make mistakes. People are much more accommodating at the beginning when you're making mistakes than like 2 years down the line when you're making mistakes. If you're making mistakes, like if we're making mistakes now, it carries a lot more weight than it did at the beginning. Like I said a couple times, like in 2014, we probably did some stuff that like now I'd be like, damn, like I can't believe we even thought that was okay, when it wasn't okay to have, whatever coach is available answers this person's check and they have no idea who this person is, no way of getting information about them. That wasn't how it should be done, but you have to learn somehow. And so just like do it before you think it's ready.
It's so funny to hear your advice, which is the opposite of what someone you would think would give to somebody to think about in the sheer economic side of things, to scale, to be duplicatable, in a sense of you're actually really offering a service in a business. Sometimes when we think about online coaching and remote coaching, we think about how can I scale and duplicate and template and blow it up really quick and make a lot of money. and you're actually really offering an online business.
For sure. That's what that you have to, we're trying to, I forget the quote, but like we're trying to like build something that can't move, not something that's fleeting, that's really fast and it's going to make you fast cash. And then you're going to be, who are you going to be in a couple of years? Like we want to make an actual impact. And I think it's easy to get distracted by the scaling because it's online and it's you can automate things. I can't tell you how many people have told me to outsource my coaching to like India and be like, you can automate a lot of this. And I'm like, but that's like the magic sauce of what we do. Like there's no way we can automate that. They're like, you definitely can do like canned responses and drop downs and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, we've tried doing like some templated responses and people notice, like they see it, they know it, they can hear it. It doesn't feel, it doesn't like ring that ring of authenticity. Like people know. So I think our focus is still on creating value. And I mean, now we've built that foundation. So it's easier. Like if I get 500 signups today, it's easier for me to manage that versus like if I got 500 clients a year ago, that would have literally crippled us. We would have been dunzos. Like we wouldn't be able to handle that many people. We've had to refund a lot of them. But it took us a long time to even get to the point where we could handle that kind of thing. And I've never focused on it. Whereas a lot of people call me and they're like, thinking about what they do when they have too many members before you've gotten there.
Well,
so
how many members do y'all work with actively on a monthly basis?
I promised I would never say it ever again.
Okay. Great. All right.
Not on a podcast. We can say it offline, but I'm not going to say it on recording.
Did you get blowback from that?
Yeah, I think people can like use it. I want people to judge the service for what the service actually is, not for how many people that we service. I think like you could probably do math on like how many clients we have and then how many coaches we have, or I don't know. And then people create assumptions and judgments, and I'd rather you judge us on like what's actually there and not that all that other noise.
Yeah. McDonald's 1 billion served. Awesome. Great. Thank you for joining us on the Operator Podcast. Please join us on our virtual platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and we will see you soon.